I'm John Schriffen here in the NFL Network newsroom in Los Angeles. We have some breaking news to report to you. Quarterback Jameis Winston will be suspended by the NFL for the first 3 games of the season. Now, this all stems from an alleged rideshare incident back in March of 2016. Now, if you're not aware of this, let's get you back to the details. Back in 2016, it is alleged that a driver of a rideshare alleged that Winston groped her while he was in the front seat as a passenger inside her car. Now, at the time, Winston immediately denied the allegations, and he released a statement saying in part that the accusation is false. Given the nature of the allegation, increased awareness and consideration of these types of matters, I'm addressing the false report immediately. Now, the NFL got involved after this incident was reported to the rideshare app, and the NFL conducted their own investigation, with the results being handed down today. Now, we want to bring in Mike Garafolo. Mike has more information about just how the league came up with this decision. So tell me about this investigation that led to the suspension.
Well, let's stop it. Let's back it up a second. The league has not made a decision at this point. This is not final. This is just in response to some reports that have come out over the previous days. And Ian Rappaport and I have been told that, yes, right now it is looking like the league is going to invoke a suspension here. That's going to be multiple games here. But that 3 number that's out there, we're not locking into that right now. We're told that no final decision has been made on the number as of right now. There's still a little bit more that has to go here before the league comes to its final decision. But it's obvious that there's something here that has triggered this in the league's mind to go from an investigation into an incident that Winston denied into something that they feel is worthy of a suspension. Now, is it going to be something where he didn't self-report this in time and didn't bring this to the league's attention? Will that be part of it? Perhaps. One of the other things that Ian Rappaport is told is that it's a conditional number of games potentially for Winston, that there could be added games onto the suspension number when that is finalized if he does not meet certain conditions. So not necessarily maybe like a Zeke Elliott situation where it was a hard 6 games. Maybe it is a lower number, but could be up to that 6-game number. And that 6-game number has been the one that folks have been looking at since the Ray Rice situation and since the league came out with a harder domestic violence policy in that situation. And they pointed to a baseline of 6 games. So that's why Elliott was at that number. And anytime it's not going to be at that number, people are going to want to know why. So we will be curious to see what the conditions are for Winston if indeed that does wind up being the case. Again, nothing finalized. A lot of times these things drop on Friday, so everybody looking to tomorrow, but it could wind up being a couple of days and drag into next week before we do have a final confirmed official decision from the NFL.
Mike, really appreciate that as a clarification. That is a potential suspension. One other clarification to make. I said earlier Winston was in the front seat. He was actually in the back seat of that rideshare vehicle. Now, I want to make sure we understand what this means for Tampa Bay now. The first 3 games of the season, if he is possibly suspended for, they face New England Patriots, Denver Broncos, and the Buffalo Bills. Now, this is one tough schedule. So, Mike, what does this now mean for the team if he is, in fact, suspended?
Now it means that Ryan Fitzpatrick is now going to step into a starting role. You could do a lot worse than that. And I know that things did not end well for Fitzpatrick in his time with the New York Jets. But remember that season before that where he had them on the cusp of the playoffs. So to be able to lean on a guy like Fitzpatrick that was able to go down to Tampa Bay last year, settle into a backup role, kind of reset his career at this point and get back to feeling comfortable in a system and showing the coaching staff that he is a veteran that can be relied upon should you have an injury or in this case a suspension where you need him to step up and be your starter for what's looking like a couple of games. Again, it could be a lot worse for you than having Ryan Fitzpatrick right there. They're also going to lean on that defense, and they've made adjustments to that defense in the offseason. A defense that really played well 2 years ago, late in the season. They thought that was going to carry over into this past year, didn't quite meet the expectations because they were lights out at the back end of that 2016 season, didn't quite get there. So you're hopeful that if you're Tampa Bay, your defense can step up here and hold some opponents down, make the games competitive so that Fitzpatrick can manage them, make a couple of plays, maybe win those games, and get off to a good start so that when Winston, should he come back and should he serve this suspension that we're expecting to come down here shortly, that you're still in a good position in the NFC South early in the season.
Now, if Winston is in fact suspended by the league, what's the appeal process here?
Well, it could be anything up to and including what we saw from Ezekiel Elliott last year, where he took it to the court system. I just don't know that we're going to get to that point with Winston. I'm not sensing that that's where it is right now. Everything has to happen within the CBA first. That's what Tom Brady had to go through. That's what Ezekiel Elliott had to go to. So now you appeal back to Roger Goodell or a designee of Goodell's choosing in this case. And then if you're not satisfied with that, you can try to make a case in the court system. So, potentially it could be some kind of a delay here, but we're just not sensing that right now with Winston. And again, we're not even to the point where this suspension is official. So those final decisions haven't been made because the league's final decision hasn't been made at this point. We will have that information as the situation begins to unfold in the coming days and weeks here.